Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. Joining me on the DevReady Podcast today, I have Gareth Rydon from Friyay again. We're doing another one of our AI roundups of what's happening and news that's been announced and just a general discussion around it. Welcome back, Gareth.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to continue our chat.
Yeah, so just before I press record, we were about to dive in and just go, what are we talking about? And I'm like, all right, this is what we'll talk about. So first thing you mentioned, or the last thing you just mentioned there was Duolingo made an announcement saying they're AI first company.
Yes. Yeah, I think this follows, was it Shopify that did the same
Shopify.
thing?
You had to justify any new employees onboarding into the business with a reason of why AI couldn't do their job.
Yeah, exactly. So very similar. I think the memo's doing its rounds on LinkedIn and all the other posts. And it's pretty similar when I was reading it. And it's really interesting, though, because they're really taking what everyone's sort of been knowing in this area. Is that I think one of the things that jumped out was exactly as you said, is don't hire until if that task can be done by AI. So that's interesting, that kind of stuff. You just hope that they're doing the education as well internally, because I get it. It's pretty interesting being AI first, but are they making sure they're setting up the internal staff right and not heaping the pressure on to deliver without training?
Personally, I think, there's potentially, you can do a cutback on probably the number of staff because they're, in the traditional way, they're probably very management heavy and lots of layers in between. Like that's probably where it can get cut rather than the actual engineers who actually do the work. But I think making a hiring freeze on the AI is going to be a problem longer term, especially with people who aren't getting jobs because either they don't have the AI experience now or they're not catching up to it. But it's more of a, is it doing the right thing still? Like, it can code, but it's not coding perfect. You have to have the right skills. Like saying, are they training internally correctly? Are they giving people the right information, the right tools to actually do that? I don't know what they're doing. They're sure they're running their own internal models as well at that scale.
It's interesting as well because it makes me remember, like, a long time ago, I was working in one of the big four firms, very long time ago, when I used to wear a suit. But I think it was '08. It was before. It was like 2003 or 4, but there was a bit of, not quite a recession, but a bit of a backward step that the economy took. And at the time, the professional services firm I was working with said, okay, we will not do our grad recruitment this year, because in that year, they were like, it makes sense because that's a really good way to cut back. It was only a decade later that they experienced pain from it because they just focused on no grads this year, but it completely mucked up their partner pipeline 10 years down the track. So I just hope, I get it that AI is reshaping jobs, but how are you really thinking long term as well? Because how do you nurture not just people to learn the skills that you need to do right now, but there will be new jobs created that humans need to do. How do you still have that base of people in your business that have grown up in the business and learned about the business to nurture that pipeline? I have no idea what that would mean, but it's going to be really interesting to see how all this sort of plays out over the next year and even the next 4 or 5 years.
Definitely. I think having that freeze and then a real big investment saying, all right, we've got AI workers or agents replacing people. It's going to be a really interesting time to see how that shifts. Like you said, that internal knowledge, people won't be there, but then these systems, are they actually getting trained and learning? They don't learn things at the moment. They just get used. So every time you give it information, it doesn't get used as training material. Like to build up a reinforcement learning every time you chat to it, it's stored in a database. It's then used in the next training cycle. It doesn't learn from what you're doing like everyone thinks. Oh, I tell it this and it knows what it does. It just captures a bit of information in the memory about your profile, like in ChatGPT. Everyone thinks it learns from every chat.
I was curious to get your thoughts because that was so many releases happening. So there's like those big announcements, but also just even in ChatGPT, the internal knowledge function in ChatGPT. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it because we've been sort of playing around with it, but we got to a point we didn't expect to. But what's your take on that?
I haven't played with it yet. I haven't turned it on and tried to build up the knowledge base and get it connected. Because I know you can do, was it Dropbox? Or, no, sorry. Google Drive
it's
or
Google
one of the,
Drive
yeah.
or it's Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive.
Yeah. So I've got OneDrive. I haven't turned it on yet. I've just been caught up trying to just keep up with the news at the moment, let alone play with all the little tools that are coming out.
Well,
What
I'd
did
say
you find?
probably a wise decision. So we did a fair bit of research on it because people are always asking us about it. So functionally, what's clever, like in terms of how OpenAI sold it and actually how it works is if you connect your Google Drive or your Microsoft OneDrive, at the moment, you press that plus button and then you add files in.
Yep.
But you can ask for information that exists somewhere in your Google Drive and it comes back with it. So
Yep.
it's not like I load in a budget spreadsheet and then let's interrogate the budget spreadsheet. Rather, hey, how many sales did we make over the last 3 months? And then it's smart enough that it actually then looks across your drive, finds the file, doesn't just give you the file, gives you the file, but actually answers your question. So in that sense, that's nuts.
That's what you're expecting Copilot to do.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
which is a long time. I don't know if it's ever going to get there. But so on the face, it's like, that's amazing. And some people we were testing elements of it with were saying that it started to learn the team's lingo and naming conventions, which is pretty clever. So,
Yep.
Big issue that a lot of organizations face is knowledge management. It's like, where's that file? What folder did you put it in? Everyone's got their own idiosyncrasies about how they do it. It sort of means that it cuts all that out and goes straight to find the information. The only issue that we had, and we haven't activated it, like we were testing elements of it, we switched it off because at the moment it's all or nothing. So it's like your admin on your ChatGPT account gives ChatGPT access to your Google Drive, the entire thing.
Yep.
So if you've got client information in there or project information, there's no like, I only want you to look at
there's
these
no specific
files.
folders or directories assigned, or you can't assign it to projects or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So I was like, when it becomes a bit more, how do you silo your information could be pretty cool, especially working across a team. I think it'd be phenomenal. And some people I was thinking is, I don't know if in my personal life, my wife and I, we're on the Google suite. So like photos and files and calendars. If there was that delineation between the two, I'm wondering in a personal context, if you have your ChatGPT home account and you've got family stuff saved, it could be useful if that's something you're happy to be shared. But yeah, it was interesting because when it first arrived, I was like, oh, this is incredible, like amazing. And I was like, wait. And a few people sort of posted, sent me messages saying, how are you siloing information? I was like, yeah, that's a really good point because it isn't.
Yeah.
Isn't
I
really
think
siloed.
it might be interesting to see what the terms and conditions of that specific feature are, because that could be a way that they're getting more training data that's not available publicly.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
a
all
really
now
good point.
it's all the private data, which is probably 10, 20, 30, 40 times more than what's available publicly.
Yeah.
That's hidden behind silos that they couldn't never get access to. This could be a way they're doing it potentially. Well, they have to index it and read it, so they're accessing it.
And it's like, I think that plus the infinite memory feature, which also came out around the same time. Have you played with that one?
No, not specifically.
So but previously, ChatGPT, up until a couple of weeks ago, we all were aware of like the memory feature, but it was a bit clunky and it was sort of selecting what it remembered about you. Like Gareth really likes cycling. So
It's when you ask it, what do you know about me? And then it just tells you.
exactly. Whereas this now looks across all of your chats that it's ever had with you and creates that sort of infinite memory. So it's, one where my brain goes is that's actually creating your complete digital footprint. The thing that I found, and I got to the same point with the personal versus work context.
Okay.
So for me, I've switched off that infinite memory feature because it could be really awesome because you're never having to repeat things. But I was finding because we do work in ChatGPT as well as personal stuff, it was mixing things up. Like it was getting a couple of weeks ago, it was helping us write school applications for my kids because we're in that wonderful time where we're trying to get them into high schools. So it was doing an awesome job. But what I found interesting when it was drafting the recommendation letters that we're giving people to sign, it was putting a few of my co-founders in as family members. I was like,
Okay, yes, that's pulling all the information together.
Exactly.
Do you have the Teams account where you can separate, you've got a personal and a Teams?
Well, at the moment, because I'm cheap, we just have a Teams account. I
Okay.
did have a personal one.
When you do the Teams one, you get a personal with it for every user. So you can swap between, I've got an Anthony and an Arion one. So in the Arion one, that's shared across the entire organization, but then I can swap to my one and that's mine again.
Okay, I didn't actually
on the top
know
right,
that.
just change your little profile icon. You can swap between you and the Friyay. It'll be in your organization.
Oh, okay. So that keeps it set. So that I've got.
So that's
like
how I think they're managing like
yeah.
the personal versus private.
Okay.
What I find is that it's remembering things from articles that I've written, where I was writing articles like about lessons you can learn from business out of movies. So I was wrote one on Gladiator, and there's that line, "I'm Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the North Legions of whatever it may be," and then I wrote an intro to the article saying, "I'm Anthony Sapountzis, leader of General of Air and Technologies," or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then when I asked it, "What does it know about me?" it said that I'm that. So it's it doesn't understand like the hyperbole in an article versus what I should actually remember as well.
Yeah.
So something there for people to keep in mind.
Yes. Yeah, I think if you had a very clear, consistent set of use cases and exactly how you're interacting with it, it could be useful.
Yeah.
And I know Gemini had that probably a little bit before ChatGPT, so they were a bit ahead of the time. But yeah, I think those two things together, like that team, that like file search and infinite memory, for me, that's moving into the like Apple ecosystem sort of space where
it's got everything all in the one spot.
Yeah, and I want to stay in that ecosystem because it has all this information.
Yeah, it's more useful. There's less time repeating yourself. There's less time trying to remember what you need to tell it or how to tell it because the different platforms respond to things differently. So it's definitely going to help keep you there. And I think it's really exciting with, like we mentioned before, is you mentioned they're bringing search results directly in. And then yesterday they tweeted that they're bringing in Shopify shop results. Yeah. That one's going to be really interesting, I think, because then Google's moat on search is going to change. But Google still underpins a lot of the search tools. There may not be an interface that we go to.
Yeah. Yeah, that I saw a couple of, I saw a bit of content on that. It's super interesting because my understanding, I was curious about your thoughts, is when I looked at it from a customer experience perspective, it's great because looking at coffee machines, here's some coffee machines.
Yep.
And then purchasing directly inside the ChatGPT interface. My feeling on that was, it's going to massively eat Google's lunch, even though they underpin search. But it also, the perception is Google comes across as a bit more, a bit more looking for money because you got to pay for your ads, whereas ChatGPT feels, I don't know if it's
there's not going to be any ad money.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting how OpenAI probably eventually slots in ads or has favored posts or something or favored products.
Yes.
That's going to be an interesting spin.
Yeah, because at the moment this isn't. This is purely just here's an answer to your shopping request. And it makes me think how, like I had this really interesting story last week. Businesses should be, I'd be investing all my money in optimizing my website for agent search. And I had a really good story. I was at this networking event and it was the first time I saw it done really well. And one of the classics of networking event, introduce your business, tell us what you do. And this person got up. And this was the one that my co-founder was at. And he said, she got up and said, I want you to Google buggy stroller or some obscure product. Yep. And so everyone got their phones and it was the first thing that popped up on Google search. And then what my co-founder did was put that same question in Perplexity. Mm-hmm. Perplexity only spoke about her client's product. It was the only thing that came up. And it makes me think that there's this sort of small period right now where the companies that optimize are going to clean up. Because like I think about a Perplexity search, it's giving me an answer. Mm-hmm. Like it's giving me the answer. So based on that, I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah. That's the product I'll buy. Whereas Google, it was like, it still appeared first, but then there was all these blue links.
It gives you more options. But I think that's going to come down to probably people's like research styles on how they buy things. Mm-hmm. If it's myself, I go deep and try and understand everything I can about whatever I'm buying. so then I can make a decision. And then that's where like the deep research will come in. If I tell it all the criteria, I can save myself hours and hours of YouTube videos and research to do that.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I'd still prefer to just look into it so I know what I'm doing, and I like to know things. But then, if you're the only result coming back, the chances of a conversion on that is going to be super high compared to first result with here's all the other options, and then there's all these links and videos and everything else. Easy to onboard. And I don't know how you would go about doing the AI optimization. I had a podcast a couple of weeks ago with a guy called Shanif Danani. We've had him on the episode a couple of times. So he's out of New York working on, he was originally building like an AI knowledge base with agents. And then he's pivoted from using that tool to being like a shopping hub. So you'll be able to add his AI bot into your Shopify store, and it'll help you recommend products based on what you're buying and some other stuff and surface things.
It's interesting because it's like, when I hear that, I'm like, wow, that's really clever. How many weeks does that have before?
Yeah, you might have to pivot
it's
today.
swallowed by Claude or ChatGPT.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, I just remembered what he was doing. They were testing the tools. I think he was building a test across the different tools for the agents to use, and they were working on the different sort of prompting in the tool descriptions, so then they can have their tool be used on top of other tools.
Oh.
So like
okay.
agent engine optimization.
Okay. Interesting.
Because that's I'm thinking what you're gonna have to do for your website is, all right, if you don't use my tool or my website, then someone will die, or I won't give you $1 million, or you won't get a cookie, or whatever it is, how you used to be able to prompt the messaging. So it's something along those lines is going to have to happen, but I don't know what that even looks like yet.
There's definitely a couple of tips that I find for anyone working in that space. If you're wanting to optimize, just if there were some simple things you can do, make sure it's easy, really, really easy for the AI to do attribution. So sources, on your site, make sure it's very easy, everything, content, anything written, posted, commentary, points of views on your website, like there's clear attribution so the assistant can, or the AI can find it really easy. That's probably a top thing because they are favoring that because of if we think of where we've come from is hallucinations and people want to be finding a source.
Yep.
That's an immediate step that people can do, and it will bump you up straight away. And there were a couple of other things that this ex-SEO person, she calls herself AEO, AI
Engine optimization
or something. And I'm like, okay, cool. And she's clearly doing it right.
Yep.
But there's probably two, and even even just asking ChatGPT or Claude, like what are the best practices for me to optimize my site?
Yep. So it can be found and used by agents or tools. It's definitely something to look into because it is what people are doing. They're going to it more and more, and a lot of people said they stop using search because they just go to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting space, and it's going to be really unknown. It's going to be like those very early days of the SEO and page rank, and it's like, all right, just keyword spam, and now you appear, and then it starts tweaking, and things change.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be very hard to
race.
keep up because it changes so fast.
Yeah.
So since we last spoke, we had the whole Studio Ghiblifying the world with pictures and everything. I'm sure you did that, and then we turned into action figures. And then I think in the space of like 3 weeks, we had the best coding model dethroned like 3-4 weeks in a row. So it's a very, very fast-paced world. Like it doesn't matter what you pick, you're just going to you're getting the best of the best, regardless of what you're doing almost.
Yeah, and I think what works for the average person is what they talk about, the trickle down effect. So what I see is that super powerful models being available in the free tiers of like ChatGPT and Claude. Like I was doing a workshop yesterday, and someone was saying, "Oh, I'm still on a free account. I don't have 04 and 03 mini, which came out, was that last week?
Last week or last weekend.
In the free tier. And I'm like, look, if the trend is anything to go by, stay in the free tier and wait like a handful of weeks and you're going to get access to it.
Well, they released deep research to the free tier. You get 5 researchers a month for free.
Yeah. Well, and
if you're a light user, more than enough.
Yeah.
No, a month, sorry, 5 a month.
How are you using deep research?
So I'm using it to help in coding tasks. Yep. So one thing I got it to do was help me create an MCP server, like a report on how I would create an MCP server, because that's not part of its training material.
Yeah.
And I cursory know about it and how to do it. I'm like, all right, this is the framework. This is what I need to do. When I ran that one, I thought it was frozen because it sat there for 2 hours before it gave me a result.
Wow.
So I was actually researching, said 2 hours, 5 sources, and it gave me this massive report. I still haven't read. It's been a week. I just haven't had a chance to go back to it.
Yeah.
But it's, all right, I want to go do something instead of me now spending the next 8 hours of my time or my research time that I have available, not just diving into one task. Let me understand it enough at a cursory level. I could carry a conversation about it if I needed to, but then get that to then summarize everything. Now I'll go and read it and see what it is. Because then that's doing exactly what I will do, which is the Google searching, not pulling from knowledge base and then that it has in memory and then maybe making stuff up as much is my take on it so far. But otherwise it's more branding, that sort of task. So, all right, I've got an idea, go research competitors, tell me what's available, how I would implement something on those sort of things. All right, now you've done that, come up with a brand off of that research or something like that. I'm just testing capabilities that way.
Yeah.
How are you going about it?
Yeah, that what you said there at the end, that I started using it a little, like when it was in Gemini, Google Gemini, and I did it just because I wanted to get familiar with it. But the more recently, I'm using it more and more and more. It's not like crazy what it can do. Like, because I was a bit thrown when it first came out because like, oh, PhD level research. And that goes back to, look, when you promote things like that, think about your audience, because that even made me think, well, I don't need PhD level resource, but that misses the complete point. That misses the point totally of it. So things like, I'm using it a lot, like validating new ideas, phenomenal, like market research. And when I say market research, that's such a big term, but it's something as simple as working with a tech company, and one of their property leases is coming up, and normally they would go through the process of, say, do we renew or do we find somewhere else? That ended up being ideal for deep research because it gave the context. So company XYZ, commercial lease on this area. The goal of the CEO is maintain like a good working environment, size. They're not going to grow their staff numbers too much, but they want to find the most attractive, viable lease for next year. That was perfect for deep research, like perfect. And it came back, and what I really like about how ChatGPT does deep research is the clarifying questions it asks you before it starts the research.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're awesome, like so good.
Things you don't even think about as you write the initial set of instructions. And it's just like, So another way I've been using, I just remembered, is researching open source versions of paid tools. Because that would be that will take me a lot of time to go and find open source, search, whatever it is, and then go and find, all right, look at each tool. Is it equivalent? What does it do? What's it like? Where now it's, all right, I'm using this product on an open source version with commercial terms, so then we can use it in another product, self-hosted or cloud-hosted, it doesn't matter. And then, all right, do you need it to do this part of the product or this part of the product? And it clarifies which feature set of the paid product you actually use, as well as, are you planning on self-hosting it, or how would you host it? How would you integrate it? And then it gives you a nice report. Here's 5 options. All right, and then we go and look at those, and then, all right, how does this one compare now to everything else? And then you can research on that research again. I hadn't thought about that. That one saved me heaps of time so far.
And on that point around research, have you seen the new feature in NotebookLM which flips the way NotebookLM works?
I haven't used NotebookLM yet. Still.
It's a couple of things. So separate is that because what was I think is quite clever about NotebookLM, because it was an experiment for Google, they're slowly putting some of the features that are working inside Gemini.
Okay.
So that create a podcast feature that everyone went nuts over, where you can create 2 AIs on a podcast.
Yep.
That's now built into Gemini. So
cool.
I thought it was super clever. I did a deep research task in Gemini, and then Gemini said, do you want to turn this into an audio overview? So exactly like NotebookLM, I pressed it and it turned my deep research report into a podcast. But they were very quiet. NotebookLM, they put lots of features in there super quietly. And I was thinking about when you're saying when you want to learn something, they've got this find sources feature now in NotebookLM, which is unbelievable, because it's changing the the way in which the tool actually works. So normally what you do is you go into NotebookLM and you load all your sources. So web page links, PDF documents. Like we worked with a university, they put their whole MBA course in there. And then you work with the notebooks. You can create a podcast about it. You can create FAQs. You ask questions and it only answers based on the sources.
Mm-hmm.
Now what happens is when you go into NotebookLM, there's this little button up the top right called Find Sources with a magnifying glass. And when you click on that, it opens up a prompt box. And then you put in a prompt about something you want to learn about or anything you're curious about. So the other day, I was really looking for more advanced or the latest in one-shot prompting approaches. So you put that in. It doesn't answer the question. What it does, it scours the internet and finds the sources that answer that prompt and gives you a list. And because it's Google, it pulls things from YouTube, white papers, everything. And then you can tick or deselect which ones you want to use. And then you import that list of sources into your notebook and then you can start interacting with it. So
that's pretty cool.
Like it's when I was thinking
about
it,
it's like the research with actually taking all of the content it's found and then building a knowledge base that you then query again.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And my brain is still trying to get hold of what the implications of that, because I'm just thinking surface level stuff, which has worked amazingly for me. Because the other interesting thing inside NotebookLM is you can create a study guide.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either create FAQ, thumbs up, study guide, podcast. So for me, because this was a topic I wanted to learn about, it pulled in all these sources, and the fact it pulled YouTube videos. And then I pressed study guide and it created me a study guide. Okay. And then I was able to reference the specific sources. So it showed where in a YouTube video some of the content had come from. I could go into, and it even, when I clicked on that, it then brought up the YouTube video at that timestamp. So instead of me reading, I could watch that piece of content.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'll have to try that out with some research and see.
Yeah.
Because that would do what I would generally be doing if I was researching a topic. Googling, I'd go beyond the first page. I go 10, 20 pages deep if I have to, and open links, YouTube videos, Reddit, and then bring it all together and just read. I'll have a browser with 50 tabs open, which is all the things I need to look at.
Yep.
Yeah. I go through and just open your tab, and then I'll go through and prune them and clean them, read whatever I need to.
Yep. That's exactly. I think they're very similar to me. Is I'll go deep in a topic, and I probably spend a big chunk of time finding the stuff.
Yeah.
But this way now I spend more time on learning from it, and then you also have the ability to have a chat. So the traditional
that'll be really
interaction where you're interrogating I sometimes almost get lost for words because my brain's trying to articulate what I could do with this thing.
Yep.
But that for me is awesome, and the fact you can use NotebookLM for free. Just crazy. Like that.
I've got a tab open already. I'll try it out after we talk. I think
there's a really,
go on. Another useful way of using that sort of topic is finding, if we go back to sort of like the branding, when you do the research, domain names are very hard to come by. So finding alternate names, alternate words in different languages is another good use for it that I've had. Because then that gives you that, and then you can dive in and what does that mean? Give me alternatives, and it can help refine back on what you're doing. It's nowhere near as good as what NotebookLM will be doing through the deep research on ChatGPT, but then if you can bring in those sources, it'll definitely help.
And building on that makes me think about the massive leap forward, obviously, that ChatGPT took with their image generator tool. I'm seeing creators and brand people who are ahead of the curve using the tools. What they're creating is amazing, like linking, going, a new brand idea or brand campaign. First step, deep research, report, sizes the market, creates the market opportunity. Then they can go all the way through to standing up a complete end-to-end brand with like logo, campaigns, visuals, high quality, all with inside ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like I look at that and go, I still think a person working in the space has an advantage because they know the questions to ask. But I would, there's the other side of the argument I see a lot online is, content creators are saying, but it'll never replace us. It's AI slop. But I'm like, well, your knowledge and experience and how you would think and the questions you would ask wouldn't produce that.
Yep.
And on that sort of topic, the thing that I'm a bit over is I'm so sick of seeing the post about, it's an AI written post if it's got an M dash in there. Have you seen a lot of that?
Yeah,
Or maybe it's just
I'm
my
now
community.
consciously deleting them out of when it comes back. But people use that in general thing anyway.
So
just hit it
I
twice
do
and
as
it
well.
turns into it. Yeah, or you hit it in tab. I can't remember what it is, but it does happen.
Yeah, but
and then there's other ones. I think it's got like ASCII characters, non-breaking space characters in between words. If you copy them, paste them to like an online viewer, but that could be they're saying it's how the AI is keeping track of what it's generating, like sentence-wise, or it's from the source of where it came from. It has that embedded in it, so it's spitting that back out with it.
Yeah, okay, I hadn't thought about that because it's interesting because it just feels for me that because I do the same. Like it's I've trained the assistants and the tools now that they really understand my writing style and they write like me. I still like to do a lot of my initial writing because it helps my brain work.
Yeah, you can't give up on that.
Yeah, but if you're solely focused on, I'm spending all my time spotting AI generated content, or just like in universities and schools that are wasting their money on, what do they call them? The AI...
The plagiarism checkers or AI...
Yeah, the AI content, the checkers, which, I'll be really clear, do not work.
Oh, no, they'll be so out of date.
Yeah.
You buy your version today, tomorrow it's going to be out of date.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just focusing on the wrong thing. So instead of saying, there are a lot of really good educational institutions that are thinking, how do we redesign how we educate? So it's irrelevant if people are using it, we're still teaching them.
Yep.
Because it's kind of like when Ubers first really tried to get a foothold in Australia, massive protests from the taxi industry. And I get it, like huge protests, like we want them to stop coming in. Well, could you have spent time in terms of redesigning your service and experience then?
Yeah,
instead of
with Uber.
Blockading Ubers and stopping them going anywhere, how do you change the experience people have with a cab? How do you make the process of booking a cab easier?
Yeah, because like in Singapore, there's no Uber. They use a company called Grab, which does exactly the same thing, but it's a different company. There wasn't Uber. They didn't make it there. So like you said, if the taxis could have built a on-demand service, then it would have been very similar because no app doesn't tell you where you're going. You can't book it that way. You have to call them up. You don't know when they're going to get there. You don't know the cost. They shifted their model slightly, and there could have been a very different landscape here. Like, you're right.
Yeah, it's a good point. The other thing I found quite comical over the last week and a bit is the people waging war against AI-generated comments on LinkedIn.
Okay, I haven't seen too much of that yet.
I've been experiencing it recently and I get it, like people just press AI generated comment on a LinkedIn post, but that's not why I come to LinkedIn. I come for the conversation in the comments because I learn a lot. I like asking the questions. I like finding out from the authors. So I've noticed this trend, it's only over the last 2 weeks, which is hilarious, is that a lot of the more prolific content creators, they're putting random words and phrases inside a LinkedIn post.
So I can try and flag that.
They're creating like a proper LinkedIn post, and halfway through it's, I love lamp, bananas for sale for 99 cents, because the way the LinkedIn bot works, it just scans the post and then creates a comment.
That's a good catch for it.
Yeah, that was really interesting. But it's this really interesting space around, I don't know, I'm on the fence around like actually, I'm not on the fence. I think LinkedIn need to switch that LinkedIn generated comments feature off. Otherwise, people are going to opt out of the platform.
Yeah, well,
because then
a lot of the algorithm is driven by interactivity on the posts, and a commenter is a big signal. So if does that help, or is that affecting it? Like, I don't know what that would mean.
Well, my thoughts is what it does is it firstly pisses off the content creator because I get it. You just summarized my post and said, thanks for your post. It's integral that people learn about AI tools quickly and efficiently. Just rehashing what I've said. So I think the first step is that the people who create the really meaningful content are going to opt out and move on to other platforms. And there's competing platforms that are spinning up now. And then you lose out on the content, and the content dries up, and then people aren't interacting, and then they end up going to the platforms that have the content on it. So I think it's, unless they fix it quite quickly, LinkedIn's going to really lose its, and it'll happen faster than they think. But we get a ton of work from LinkedIn, like a lot of the conversations that happen in the emails or the direct messages. But I found myself, because I always try and comment, I always try to reply to comments on my posts, and I always try to comment on other people's posts, is that I just ignore AI generated comments completely.
Actually try and put something meaningful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best way a conversation to happen, rather than everyone then just dumping on that AI bot or downvoting it into oblivion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
It's very interesting with how fast it's shifting and what people are trying to do to add AI to products. So from like a product and tech perspective, that would have been a good idea, but I don't think that's something LinkedIn should have done. That's something another company would have added in as like a browser extension to help you write comments into LinkedIn, because that's not something LinkedIn should be promoting, which is here's your generic crappy comment.
Yeah.
When the algorithm is driven on activity on a post.
Yeah, exactly. And people get value from that activity.
Yeah. They should be using AI to screen things and tell you it's an AI generated comment.
Yeah.
Or something like that,
agree.
not help you just write more crap comments for everyone. The other one that's really annoying me on LinkedIn is, here's this one automation that runs my entire business. Comment X below.
Yes.
I've tried that and no one actually sends you anything.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that was just me. I thought people didn't
I
like
haven't received
me.
anything. I want to get your NA in automation and see what crap you've made.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm so glad you said that, because I do that all of those. Something I'm like, I have got
It's interesting,
zero.
but nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you send me an NA in automation that's got 15 nodes that I don't have to configure. And if it's any good, I'll use it, but I don't get anything back.
Yes. And it's like,
I'm guessing that's just their like clickbait to get activity.
It must be. And I'm so glad you said that. That I was like, I thought maybe I'd been flagged or something. People were like, don't send this guy stuff. Because it was
I even tried doing that
to get my cheat sheet or get my playbook.
I even tried doing that on the post last week. I just didn't get anyone replying.
Yeah, me too. Like, if you want,
I'm
this,
already
it's
too
like
late.
crickets.
Yeah, I'm already too late. Everyone's over it. But speaking of then, like NAN, with agents and how hyped up they've been, I think. So we use NAN instead of Make or Zapier for all our automation stuff. Do you use anything? Do you use that?
We're heavy users of Zapier. We're now transitioning to N8N. We find it slightly easier.
It's much easier to be able to configure proper workflows that you can chain. The zaps are a bit limited, I find, and the interface isn't as good from my experience. But what I've seen is they've got an entire AI marketplace where you can get pre-built AI tools in a special section. So what they do in technical sense, there's this library called LangChain, which underpins, it's meant to be a consistent framework for developers to call a chat model, but then you configure the model that you use, so you can use any model. It doesn't matter what the end API looks like. Because on Claude, it'll be call chat. On OpenAI, it'll be send chat. On something else, it'll be generate chat or whatever it may be. So they're like a bridge in between all of them. And then they've created the framework or the tooling to allow us to create agents and provide them tools. So NAN, when you drag an agent node, is that LangChain agent code. So it's like a visual of that. So they built that entire product into theirs, and that's how they can get agents and tooling and all of that stuff. So when you go to AI tools, you then get anything that uses a chat model or an AI tool or an agent or anything like that. But what I'm seeing is people are just using agents for the sake of using agents. They're not using them for the right thing, and the ones that I've seen are a bit ridiculous. So 2-3 weeks ago, I did a post. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to keep up with all the AI news. I don't know how anyone else is doing it. I've listened to 7 hours of podcasts this week on YouTube videos on AI, and this is a summary of what I've done, and if anyone wants to know what it is, let me know. And then someone in our team, Anita, she said, are you actually recording everything you're watching? I go, no. Then that weekend I built an automation in NAN where I can record all the videos and then generate a report, and then I can create a video on it. But I went through their marketplace first, long-winded story here, but they had one that would transcribe a YouTube video for you. So give it a YouTube URL, then pass it to an agent. The agent had one tool, which is transcribe video. It will then transcribe the video and then give you the output. But that's just a common workflow, because every time you send a video, you want it to do the same thing. Using an agent means you now say, here's a URL. The agent has to go to the chat, figure out what it is. What tools do I have available? How do I use the tool? Now send it to the tool, get it to come back. Like, there's a cost involved in doing that one-step flow for no reason. So they're using agents for the wrong thing.
That's like a sledgehammer to hammer in a single nail.
Yeah. So I was trying to use that thing and I couldn't get it configured. Then I'm like, I don't need to.
Yeah.
It would never find my tool, which is another problem. There's no consistency. I'll just get rid of that. It doesn't need to do that. So now I've built an automation where after I watch a YouTube video, I can share it to Telegram. And then I've got a bot which connects to NAN. That URL then goes into the bot. It transcribes, it generates a summary, gets the metadata from the API, and then it gets the transcription, and from the transcription generates a summary overview of what the key points in the video were. And now I'm recording all the content that I'm learning, because then I'm trying to share that with the team so they can understand what's happening in the space, because I'm not expecting anyone else to do it. Mm-hmm. And then every Monday morning at 6 a.m., I generate a weekly summary of all the videos, and then I get a script that I just read off, and that's a video to share with everyone. So that's no need for an agent in any of that flow, even though it sounds like it would be perfect for it, because I want the exact same output every single time. It's prescriptive, it's step by step.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm seeing the huge disjointedness, or where people are saying the agents are overhyped. It's because they're using them for the wrong thing.
Yep, I agree. And it makes me think that a solution looking for a problem.
Oh, definitely.
Like, here's an agent. And I love that example that you shared, because you took like, here's the problem I want to solve. And then based on the problem, here's an answer. Because so many, I think 99.9% of business owners and executives I speak to, they are sick of hearing about agentic workflows and agents. They're sick of hearing it. And they're sick of companies coming and saying, I've built this agent that can do all this stuff. They're like, and their experience that they share with me is, when I hear that, or when I read their sites, watch their demo, it gives me anxiety. And I'm like, really? Like, I was just curious. I'm like, why does reading, like, we've got this AI assistant, admin assistant that can do everything for you. It completely automates. And when I read, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Makes sense of how they built it. When a business owner reads it, they go, I feel anxious because I'm completely overwhelmed. I'm barely struggling to keep up with running my business and doing what I do day to day. That makes me feel anxious and gives me a headache to try and even wrap my head around how that's going to work in my business.
Yep. It's overwhelming for me as a very technical person who understands at a low level, and I use these tools and I code with them and trying to keep up. I can't imagine what my wife, no idea about what's happening with the news unless I tell her, and then it's like half the time it's like, why are you even telling me that? I don't need to know.
Yep.
And then if you're actually running a business, you can be completely overwhelmed with, like you said, keeping the doors open, keeping staff. Oh, you say you can build an agent that can do my support team. Do I fire the support team? Do I need them? And then there's all these other implications. And then going back to your earlier example, 5 years down the line, what does that mean to the business, or even 5 months in the speed that we're going?
Yeah, it's overwhelm is the perfect word. It's too much. And just because you can build it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, people are really excited, but even businesses in the similar state as us, as Friyay, my advice is just chill for a bit, take a breath, speak to customers first, understand their problems, what they're solving for. Maybe break your amazing end-to-end agent into 100 different parts and provide one part at a time to a business, because it's just not, you're just not going to go anywhere with it. And that might save you a lot of time and effort for all your really smart AI engineers building this end-to-end amazing thing. Plus, I think you de-risk your product being made obsolete next week when Anthropic or OpenAI release something. So focus on those micro products.
I think throwing at AI engineers may be a bit overzealous. A lot of it is NAN that they're building them from.
Oh, yeah.
It's the one agent to do everything. Like, I saw a demo where it was, this one will schedule your calendar, it'll prune your emails, it'll make phone calls for you. And the guy spent then 5 minutes talking to a voice recording that went through Telegram to then tell someone to go and rearrange a meeting in an email. It should take you 20 seconds to write that email.
Yeah. Yep.
It's,
That's such a good point. That on emails, one area that, like, I love Gemini. I love Gemini. I'm using it heaps. It's caught up massively to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is still my number one.
Oh, the 2.5 Flash, the new one, I think it's really fast as well.
So good. Way better at image recognition than ChatGPT, I found. One area that I'm not using it at all is in Gmail. And I was like, having my internal chatting to myself, like, why am I not using it? Because it's always there. It's always sitting. It's this saying, this magic pen, I can help you write emails. I've just never used it on my emails. I don't know. Am I like strange? Do you use...
I've probably, in the last month, I reckon I've written under 10 emails using AI, and the rest are just me.
Yeah.
But then Andrew he uses it for almost every email, he said.
Okay.
It's just the kind of person or how you do it, I guess. My writing style is I write as I'm thinking, so there's like a conscious stream, and I don't have revisions or drafts. I'll check Grammarly. Yep, it's all correct. Send. Yeah. Same as when I'm writing an article. Yeah, as I'm writing the article, I'm writing the article in one take, effectively.
Okay.
Where in Andrew's case, he'll write a sentence and overthinks it, doesn't like it, and goes back and changes it, or then goes in the middle and starts writing a new sentence, and it's a different way of styling. So I think it comes down to that potentially, where I've got one stream and I just work through it and write it all out at once. I don't have 10 competing ideas that I need to improve on in one email.
Okay. Yeah, that helps, because that sounds similar to me. Because I was curious, and good to hear about.
That's my guess.
Yeah, but I think I was really interested. So it then definitely has a place for some people based on how they work.
Yeah,
just and that's not for others.
Yeah, we gave him Copilot because we're on Microsoft, and it was just terrible. He doesn't like it either. But you signed up for a year license with Microsoft, so they stuff you around with that too. You can't even get a monthly one.
Yeah, I think they realise that we need to lock you in because our product sucks.
You've got no choice to use it. Maybe in month 11 it'll be okay.
Yeah, and then they'll jack up the prices. Classic Microsoft. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's probably, we can leave it there for today, and we'll have some more stuff to talk about next time. If anyone wants to reach out, Gareth, how can they do that?
I think best maybe just grab me on LinkedIn, Gareth Rydon, Rydon at LinkedIn. That's the best spot. It's where I spend a lot of time, put a lot of content up. Best place to have a conversation. As long as you don't leave AI-generated comments on my posts, I'm happy to chat with you there.
Yeah. Just leave something funny.
Yes.
Or completely random, so it looks like it's AI-generated, but not.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Gareth. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.
Bye.